Hey everybody, Emily Mayer here, host of Breathe, Hope, Vote, the podcast where we talk about all things South Carolina elections and legislative here at the Arena SC. With me today is one of our fantastic candidates on the ballot this November, Jessicka Spearman. Jessicka, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. And Jessicka, just do a real quick intro. Let folks know what race you're running in, kind of what that geographic region is, and who your opponent is.
Oh my gosh, hold on. Brain goes fart. Sorry. I am running for State Senate District 6, and that encompasses the northern part of Anderson County.
Very good. Very good. And how did you find yourself putting your name on the ballot? As that doesn't seem like something that people just decide to do where you live and where you're looking to represent. So tell me about how this came to be.
Well, I have been a mental health advocate for many, many years. And in doing so, I started advocating at the State House for the rights for my child. I actually am the mom of a transgender child. And we noted that South Carolina had wanted to implement and now has implemented a lot of laws dictating how we parent our child and the medical care that our child receives. Also, we are, see, that's what sucks to say. And also, I'm the parent of 4, and 3 of those are female children, and reproductive rights was very important for our household.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are running against one of the most extreme representatives that we have in the state legislature. Tell us about any interactions you've had with them and what that experience has been like.
I am running against Richard Cash, the incumbent. He is not very receptive to his constituency's feedback, and that is what I hear resoundingly. Even if you agree with him, he's not very easy to contact. He's not very easy to get to come speak with you on the lobby floor. He is not really engaged, and him and I have had some words before and disagreed on the lobby floor where, he told me that he did not want to meet my trans child. He had never met a trans person, didn't want to meet my trans child because he couldn't be nice to my trans child. He also could not give me a definite answer for what age would be appropriate for teenagers to get married, whether it was, what the age of the adult would be that could marry a teenager. He said that had never been discussed in a subcommittee, and so he did not know the answer to that question.
See, I find all of that so fascinating because
Oh yeah.
I don't even know where to begin with that, because I guess in a way, like, thank you for telling me that you're not going to be nice to my child so I don't put them in a situation where you think you're going to be able to be nice and then it's just a disaster. So I guess thank you for that. But to this like double standard of you can't make a decision for your child that's in their best interest medically, yet he has no issue with letting children go get married and have baby. Like the lack of consistent logic there is really, really difficult for me. So I know I'm not the only one who feels that way when it comes to Richard Cash. And I think, yeah, go ahead.
I've been a trauma therapist in Anderson County and still see a lot of my clients, trauma clients from Anderson County. And for him not to acknowledge that that's an issue within our own county, and his lack of knowledge of even us having a child advocacy center in Anderson, blew my mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so tell us about what your experience at the State House has been outside of trying to get Richard Cash to understand things that it seems like he's not ever going to be willing to understand. You have been there more or less every single time that I have been at the State House, and I'm at the State House a lot. So share with folks what that experience has been like, what you've learned, and how that's going to help you be a better candidate and elected official.
I have learned that, there's so much that goes into this. It's more than what meets the eye. I have learned how to speak legislation, speak per se. And I think that, I have met a lot of the legislators. A lot of them are now what I would, consider friends. We have a lot of good conversations, and we don't always have to agree on things. And I think that's important in the state right now is, we have to come to some consensus on things, on every issue. But I think that it's super important too that it started thundering and it completely threw me off.
You're good. You're
It's
good.
like, what is that? Is somebody crashing into a house? No, it's just really loud thunder, but I can see the sun. Sorry, ADHD. Being at the state house and being able to speak up for the concerns and, that all of the citizens in the state have, and it just feels like we're not being listened to. I have been there a lot. Actually, have been asked before, was I a registered lobbyist? And I am not. Everything that I've done at the state house has been on my own accord for the future of South Carolina, for my community, because I care about my community. And I know that there are populations that are not being heard at the state house. And unfortunately, they're still not being heard. We're having laws passed that we know the general consensus in South Carolina does not agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know where you are too, you're seeing in your community not just attacks from the people who represent you at the state house, but also your libraries and your school board. I know that you all have been consistent in showing up at each of those meetings and facing each battle as they've come to you, and knowing what we know about the political temperature right now, and knowing that the rhetoric is at an all-time high. You are in one of the most gerrymandered conservative districts
Yeah.
in our state. Putting yourself out there as a candidate, are you fearful for your safety ever? You are loud and brave and outspoken about your family's truth and your stories, but does that ever make you concerned for your safety or the safety of those around you?
I don't think so. My mom's concerned, but I am not. I was, I'm fortunate enough to be the surviving spouse of a combat veteran who, was very much Second Amendment, and I just am not scared. He is no longer with us, but all the training that he gave me, self defense wise, and I was pretty tough before I met him. My background, I come from a trailer park in Anderson County, so there hasn't been a time that I haven't had to be around somewhere where I didn't feel quite safe enough, even in my job. Going to people's homes sometimes, where their families are not, the safest. I just really am not that scared. I know that I probably should be, and there's a little bit of healthy anxiety towards it, but not in general. I think that having a husband that works security and, a combat veteran who my safety was always his utmost concern really helps me in this situation to not be as concerned. I'm very observant. I know what's going on around me. I know who's around me, but I worry more about my children's safety. With them, people know who my kids are when they go to school, and they know that my child is trans. And I do worry about that sometimes. I worry about their safety more than mine, because they're away from me, I guess you would say.
Right, right. And they didn't sign up for this, right? As somebody who's also a mom and also outspoken in advocacy and saying some things that maybe some people only dare to think to themselves. My kids are much younger than your kids, but I absolutely can appreciate the fact that they didn't sign up. They didn't ask for their mamas to be out there doing these things. They're going to be better off because of it, right? But this shouldn't have to be their burden to carry. So I can appreciate that, and thank you so much for being that mom for them.
When Eric and I started doing this was very well within their, we didn't mention, the gender of our children. We didn't mention names, but, thankfully, my children are a little bit older. I have one that's an adult now. Well, technically an adult, that, is going to USC for political science in August. And she actually started her own journey of advocacy. And, she spoke in front of the state board, and I never was so proud of my life. And then, my son has been on a couple of different ads, with my husband. And so, we took steps privacy wise, to make sure that their privacy was honored until they were old enough to say that they wanted to be a part of this.
I love that. I think that's so important, and something that I certainly hope that I'm emulating for my kids. I guess only time will tell. But speaking of your husband, Eric, who just recently was honored posthumously with the Advocate of the Year award for the ACLU of South Carolina, which is so well deserved. If you haven't seen the piece that Grace did on him and Jessica's child, please go find it. Maybe we can find a way to link it in the comments here. But such a powerful piece, because I think when you look at Eric, if someone were to make an assumption about him, they would not have assumed that he would be the out and loud parent of a trans child. And I think that's part of what makes your family story so compelling. But his loss, how has that empowered you to continue on the path that you're on as a candidate and as an advocate? I know that, you know, it would be normal for you to say, I can't do this right now. Stepping up as a candidate is not something that I have the capacity to do. And yet you have seemed even stronger and more resolute in that decision since his passing. Can you share a little bit as to how he's still powering you to do this work?
Well, when it started, for us both running for office, it started as me running for office. And he found out that the House of Reps seat 6 was going to go unopposed as well. And so he decided to run. All I can hear him saying, from the past is, I want to see you do what you want to do. Politics has always been, on the back burner because I'm a therapist, and but I've always followed politics, and I know that he still wants me to do it. I think it would hurt him worse to know that, that I would stop because he's no longer here. Is it hard? Oh yeah. Have I actually read things that are not very nice about me because I'm still running? Yeah. But I know my husband was dedicated to this country. He served in Iraq, and he would not want me to stop because he knows that he did not feel like our family was represented in South Carolina. He wouldn't want the service to the country to stop. In one of his in his speech that he gave at the State House, his first time speaking at the State House that went viral, he's like, my oath never expires. Well, it did on May 31st, but that means that I get to take that torch up and carry it for him. Him and I had very similar personalities. We're very passionate about things. And I think that continuing this journey is what he would have wanted. And I think that it's what's best, for our children to see, yeah, things happen in life that are not the way that we planned. And we still have to keep going. We're still living life, and we get to grieve dad, and we get to see all the amazing things that he did. The president of the United States of America sent me a letter thanking me for all the things that Eric did. I don't even know how that
I was going to ask you, because so that recrossed my feed the other day. I saw it when you first posted it, and it recrossed my feed, I think just a day or two ago. And I got emotional all over again. I mean, how did the president, like, did he, I'm blown away by the fact that your family crossed his radar and he took the time and the effort to put that letter out to y'all. That is just incredible.
And my kids get to see that. They get to carry these things on. I've really seen our son step up and advocate for himself. Even in his eulogy at Eric's funeral, where our son was much more shy, much more reserved. And, I think that seeing how powerful dad was, and, that thought process that everyone had when they would see Eric was that there's no way that he's going to be on the side of pure freedom, but he was. That's what he fought for. That's who he was. And he was such a powerhouse when he spoke. And I just see our son taking those same exact footsteps. And, and then our oldest daughter is just walking right along in mine. And I'm like, we did a good job. We did a good job raising our children. And, for them to be able to carry forward, having the letter from the president, his flag, from his services and his award from the ACLU and things like that, those are honorable things and such a legacy, when you get to say I'm Eric Child's child. I think that's amazing. He was breaking generational curses left and right, and we certainly are proud of who he is and what he left behind, which was us. And of course, we certainly miss him every day. Things are not the same in the slightest, but I know that he would want us to live up to all of the dreams that we had, and that's why I decided that I had to continue to run.
Yeah. And the love and support that your family has gotten from every corner of this state, I think is such a testament, not only to Eric and your kids, but to you and the work that you all do. And the fact that folks realize that every community is worth investing in, right? And you stepping up and putting your name on the ballot for your community is no small feat and means so much to so many people. And so thank you for that. I want to end on a little bit of an upbeat, if we can. As you've been meeting with folks, as you've been out as a candidate on the campaign trail, what has been your biggest surprise or a funny story or something that maybe you weren't expecting along the way?
I think one of the funniest experiences I've had lately is someone that's pretty well known within our community, and is just like, I really hope you win. There's some things that need to change in Anderson County. They're pretty well known as staunch conservative, and they were like, I really want you to win this. And, these interactions are like, wow, okay, that's great. Because, I think that, of course, we're totally toeing the line of what freedom is right now and how we're looking at freedom. And to have someone that you don't expect to say that and be like, yeah, I really, there's got to be some changes, because we're really starting to trample on to everyone's freedom. And I was like, wow, okay, who to vote for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so important, because when you have a incumbent who holds the views that Richard Cash holds and you allow him to run unopposed, what you say is, I'm okay with the way that he views the world, even if I don't agree with it, right? So it makes people who maybe don't live in your community feel as if everybody who lives in Senate District 3 must feel the way that Richard Cash feels, because when he goes unopposed and then he wins with 95% of the vote, right?
Right.
That's the perception. People don't realize that it's really just because they didn't have another choice, and folks don't really understand the write-in process, and that they don't have to necessarily vote for that race if they don't feel so aligned. So just putting yourself on the ballot and letting folks almost protest in a way by casting that ballot for somebody other than Richard Cash is very, very powerful. So thank you so much for stepping up to do that. So if folks want to learn more about you, support your campaign, where can folks go?
SpearmanForSC.com.
Fantastic. That was Jessicka Spearman. I'm Emily Mayer, and this was your Breathe Hope Vote candidate interview of the week. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.